Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned to Community Radio Networks. On this Friday, the 26th of January. Wishing everyone from India a very, very happy Republic Day today. As we get you all the information here for you to take on the day today. All coming up right here on Community Radio Networks, and we will start with the world news coming up first. This is Community Radio Networks, the world news read by Shabnam Modgil. The top UN court has stopped short this morning of ordering a ceasefire in Gaza, but demanded that Israel try to contain death and damage in its military offensive in the tiny coastal enclave. South Africa, which brought the case, had asked for the court to order Israel to halt its operations. This news has just broken that the UN's top court decided not to throw out genocide charges against Israel for its military offensive in Gaza as part of a preliminary decision in a case that goes to the core of one of the world's most intractable conflicts. Today's decision is only an interim one. It could take years for the full case brought by South Africa to be considered. Israel rejects the genocide accusation and had asked the court to throw the charges out. The World Court ordered Israel to prevent the acts of genocide against the Palestinians and do more to help civilians, although it stopped short of ordering a ceasefire as requested by South Africa. El Al is stopping all flights to Johannesburg at the end of March due to what it says is a collapse in passenger demands in South Africa, charge Israel with genocide in its war against Hamas. And the Israeli airline El Al setting to cancel direct flights between Tel Aviv and the South African city of Johannesburg. At least 26,083 people, the Palestinians that have been killed, and over 64,400 injured in Israeli strikes on Gaza since the 7th of October. And the Israeli military has confirmed it's continuing to target areas across the Gaza Strip with combined land, air and sea assaults. Israeli soldiers waging a guerrilla campaign to take control of Gaza's second largest city, and the Israeli army has called on residents of a number of neighborhoods west of the city of Khan Yunis to evacuate their homes and go to nearby area of Al-Mawasi in the southern Gaza Strip. Where is Yahya Sinwar as 4 months after the October 7 terrorist attack on Israel approaches? That elusive Hamas leader, believed to be the architect of this assault, has managed to stay one step ahead of Israel's military and intelligence forces. Israel Defense Forces recently found cages where they say hostages were kept deep under Khan Yunis, his birthplace and a densely populated hub for Hamas's political activity. Current and former Israeli officials reporting that they say Sinwar and other Hamas leaders have likely been hiding nearby, carefully protected by layers of Israeli captives and lower-tier Hamas fighters. Iran is now a legitimate target for Israeli missile strikes, one of the country's most senior ministers telling The Telegraph, raising the prospect of an all-out war with Tehran. The UK Maritime Trade Operation says it has received a new report of another incident near Yemen's port city of Hodeidah. The maritime agency says the report indicates explosions were heard and missiles were sighted around 4 nautical miles away from the reporting vessel, with this happening approximately 60 nautical miles of the Yemeni coast. Turkish Foreign Minister told his British counterpart David Cameron during a meeting in Istanbul that an immediate ceasefire was needed in Gaza. The director of the CIA will meet in Europe with his Israeli and Egyptian counterparts, plus the Qatari Prime Minister, aiming to negotiate a truce and hostage release in the Israel-Hamas war. The directors of Israel's Mossad intelligence agency and the US CIA meeting Qatar's Prime Minister in Europe this weekend to discuss a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and the release of hostages. Qatar has been an integrally replaceable key regional partner for the U.S. since Israel's bombardment. And Israel's Defense Ministry Director General Eyal Zamir has wrapped up a working visit to Washington, where he discussed the purchase of new squadrons of top-tier U.S.-made fighter jets and attack helicopters, in addition to munitions for the crisis in Gaza. Alabama executed a convicted murderer with nitrogen gas last night, putting him to death with a first-of-its-kind method that once again placed the U.S. at the forefront of the debate over capital punishment. The state said the method would be humane, but critics called it cruel and experimental. Officials said that Kenneth Eugene Smith who was 58 years old, was pronounced dead at 8:25 p.m. last night at an Alabama prison after breathing pure nitrogen gas through a face mask to cause oxygen deprivation. It marked the first time that a new execution method has been used in the United States since lethal injection. Now, the most commonly used method was introduced in 1892. The execution took about 22 minutes from the time between the opening and closing of the curtains to the viewing room, and he appeared to remain conscious for several minutes. Alabama's governor said the execution was justice for the murder for hire for killing a 45-year-old Elizabeth Sennett in 1988. In a speech after losing the New Hampshire primary to former President Trump, a second straight loss after Iowa, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley vowed to keep running, and the reason she gave sounded simple enough: that New Hampshire is not the last in the nation, as she said, only remaining challenger for the Republican presidential nomination. And the judge warned Donald Trump, no speeches, no interruptions, no challenges to the previous verdict. And then, at the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan yesterday, he delivered exactly that. Less than 48 hours after Trump was declared the winner of the Republican primary in New Hampshire, the former president returned to a familiar venue in his split-screen campaign, a courtroom. For less than 5 minutes, he took the stand in his own defense in the civil trial for E. Jean Carroll's defamation lawsuit against him, which stemmed from his denial of the writer's accusation that he raped her in a department store dressing room in the 1990s. Jurors must decide how much, if anything, Trump will pay her in damages. Peter Navarro was sentenced yesterday to 4 months in jail for contempt of Congress after defying a subpoena related to the congressional investigation into the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol attack. A recent study has found that tens of thousands of pregnancies resulted from rape in states where abortion is no longer a legal option after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. The study was completed by researchers from Planned Parenthood, Resound Research for Reproductive Health, and other academic institutions, and published in the JAMA Internal Medicine. A man died after he stole a plane from an airport in Addison, Texas, and then crashed it near the Texas-Oklahoma border. The Texas Department of Public Safety said the plane, a Cessna 172, was stolen from the ATP flight school at the Addison airport about 15 miles north of downtown Dallas, and the pilot, identified by the DPS as Logan Timothy James, was 23 years, of Stocksdale, North Carolina, flew the plane more than 80 miles northeast towards Paris, Texas, before it crashed near the state border. Addison Airport told the station the plane departed the airport at a particular time and went down about 2 hours later. Texas DPS says preliminary investigation over this aircraft that crashed in Fenton County shows the aircraft was stolen. A Garland teenage murder suspect who was on the run for 2 weeks is in custody this morning. Police say 16-year-old Amancio Noriz fled to Mexico following the murders. He was arrested there and extradited to the United States overnight, accused of killing an 18-year-old Alan Chavez and 17-year-old Ruben Arzola in Garland on the 14th of this month. The White House is not backing away from negotiations over a border deal, even as Donald Trump moves to scuttle those talks. Officials stuck to a tight script, telling reporters that the administration continues to engage while urging Republicans to do the same. Tempers flared as Republicans battled amongst themselves over whether to accept or reject a deal for tougher immigration laws, with some pushing back on colleagues who want to bow to former President Trump's wishes. And a bipartisan Senate deal to pair border enforcement measures and Ukraine aid face potential collapse as Senate Republicans grew increasingly wary of an election year compromise that Donald Trump, the likely Republican presidential nominee, says is meaningless. The U.S. government privately had warned Iran that the Islamic State group's affiliate in Afghanistan was preparing to carry out a terrorist attack before bombings in Kerman earlier this month that killed 95 people. The official insisted that the U.S. was following its long-standing policy of a duty to warn other governments against potential lethal threats. The U.S. secretly warned Iran that ISIS was planning this potential terror attack inside Iran's borders before the group carried out this deadly attack near the burial site of slain military commander Qasem Soleimani on the 3rd of this month. U.S. forces also carried out airstrikes against an Iran-backed militia in Iraq after the group attacked this airbase where American troops are stationed. And this has happened now as the 3 targets included the headquarters of Kataib Hezbollah, as well as a training facility and storage space for missiles and drones. According to U.S. Central Command, the facilities are also used by other militant outfits. A Kenyan court halted a government plan to send police forces to rein in powerful gangs in Haiti, saying such a deployment would be unconstitutional. The plan contravenes the constitution and the law and is therefore unconstitutional, illegal and invalid, according to the High Court in the capital of Nairobi. A group of Senate Republicans urged the Justice Department to release its investigative file on a key fixer for Venezuela's socialist government pardoned by President Biden ahead of trial on money laundering charges. The 52-year-old Alex Saab was released from federal prison in Miami last month as part of a prisoner swap and was immediately welcomed to Venezuela as a hero by President Nicolas Maduro. Once freed, he launched into a tirade against the U.S., claiming he had been tortured while awaiting extradition from Cape Verde in a bid to make him turn on Maduro. A top Biden administration official said the U.S. is concerned by actions that Venezuela's government has taken against the opposition and civil society a few months after an agreement aimed at fostering a competitive and fair vote in presidential elections later this year. Talks over a territorial dispute pitting Venezuela against Guyana yielded commitments to avoid violence or threats as Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro revived claims over the oil-rich region on their shared border. An international commission is needed to establish the cause of the Russian Il-76 transport plane's crash, but Moscow currently rejects this option. Several Russian high-ranking officials were supposed to be on board that Il-76 military transport aircraft that crashed in Russia's Belgorod Oblast on the 24th of this month. President Putin made a surprise visit to the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad yesterday, marking his first trip there since shortly after the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Kaliningrad, situated on the Baltic Sea, borders NATO member states with Poland to the south and Lithuania to the north and east, often considered to be a potential flashpoint of future conflict between NATO and Russia. Russia continues to suffer losses in its war of aggression against Ukraine, as Ukraine's defense forces have killed 990 Russian soldiers and destroyed 16 armored combat vehicles and 15 artillery systems over the past day alone. Ukraine is working to organize an official visit of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, the first in 14 years. And Nepal's Foreign Minister Narayan Prakash Saud has urged Russia to compensate the families of Nepalese nationals who died fighting in the war against Ukraine. He stated that over 200 Nepalese citizens had been recruited by Russia to participate in the war, with at least 14 confirmed dead. Nepal has called on Russia to immediately cease the recruitment of its citizens and to repatriate those already serving, as well as the remains of those killed. British King Charles III admitted to a private London hospital this morning for scheduled treatment of an enlarged prostate, according to a statement released by the Buckingham Palace. The palace has said his condition is benign and added that the monarch was delighted to learn that his diagnosis is having a positive impact on public health awareness. The King of Britain hospitalized in London today for this scheduled prostate treatment, while the Queen joins him at the same hospital where their daughter-in-law, the Princess of Wales, is undergoing an abdominal surgery. Protesting farmers shut down long stretches of some of France's major highways again today, using their tractors to block and slow traffic and squeeze the government ever more tightly to cede to their demands that growing and rearing food should be made easier and more lucrative. In news out of Berlin, the German Protestant Church acknowledged it did not do enough to protect children after an independent study revealed thousands of cases of sexual abuse within the organization. The study estimated that the number of minors who fell victim to church ministers and staff may be as high as 9,355. And the German Protestant Church said it would present an action plan based on the results of this abuse study. Meanwhile, Germany's foreign minister received a briefing on the situation in South Sudan at the headquarters of the UN Blue Helmet mission in the East African country in the face of a worsening humanitarian crisis. She was welcomed in the capital of Juba this morning by the deputy head of the military observation mission and the longest-serving officer of the German part of the UN mission in South Sudan. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the World News on Community Radio Networks. The Japanese mission to put a lunar spacecraft on the surface of the moon was a rousing success, though the landing was headfirst. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency announced the situation at a press conference, explaining that the smart lander for investigating the moon, SLIM, spacecraft has managed to touch down on the tiny patch of the moon's surface chosen for the mission. And the company shared the first image of its lander, revealing revealing that the spacecraft touched down on the moon upside down. The Moon Sniper craft made that pinpoint lunar landing despite last-minute engine problems. Thousands of Australians protested the anniversary of British colonization of their country with large crowds today urging for Australia Day to be moved from a day of mourning on the holiday some call Invasion Day. The holiday today marks the arrival of 11 British ships carrying convicts at Port Jackson in present-day Sydney. For many activists, the day marked the beginning of a sustained period of discrimination and expulsion of Indigenous people from their land without a treaty. And we'll be talking more about it when we do some stories from the Annals of history later in our program this morning. Two monuments symbolizing Australia's colonial past were also damaged in Melbourne yesterday. A statue of British naval officer James Cook, who in 1770 charted Sydney's coast, was sawn off the ankles, and a Queen Victoria monument was doused in red paint. Meanwhile, strong winds hit Australia's northeast coast today, leaving thousands without power, but the area was spared heavy damage as tropical cyclone Kirili weakened into a tropical storm. Novak Djokovic's Australian Open title defense is over after a stunning 4-sets defeat to Jannik Sinner in the semi-final. Djokovic had been unbeaten at the Australian Open since 2018 and was on a 33-match winning run in Melbourne, but Sinner advanced to his first Grand Slam final with a remarkable 6-1, 6-2, 6-7, 6-3 victory against the 10-time champion. Mitchell Marsh will captain Australia for their 2020 series against the West Indies, with regular skipper Pat Cummins being arrested. And Australia captain Pat Cummins and England's Skyver Brunt were named Cricketers of the Year by the International Cricket Council. The Philippines and Vietnam are set to sign a cooperation agreement between their coast guards as Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. boosts partnerships in the region amid lingering tensions with Beijing in the South China Sea. Russian President Putin has again lavished praise on Prime Minister Modi, saying that the foreign policy India is pursuing is not easy in today's world. According to him, he said India's booming economic development and growth rate is due to the leadership qualities of the incumbent Prime Minister. And in a major effort to enhance academic ties between the two nations, France President Emmanuel Macron said on India's 75th Republic Day today that they are set on an ambitious target to welcome 30,000 Indian students to their universities by 2030, and that he's determined to make it happen. He was the chief guest at the 75th Republic Day parade in New Delhi today, as Indians cheered hundreds of men and women in colorful costumes as they played marches, performed traditional dances, and pulled motorbike stunts during India's Republic Day parade in New Delhi today. Thousands of people braved the winter chills and mist in the Indian capital as the parade showcased the country's military hardware and cultural heritage. The 75th Republic Day parade today witnessing the nation's Atmanirbhar military prowess and growing Nari Shakti on Kartavya Path. In a historic first, an all-women tri-service contingent and an all-women parade and band contingent of the Delhi police participate in the parade, where French President Macron was the chief guest. His state visit marked France's sixth participation, the highest of any other nation, as chief guest on India's Republic Day. And on this historic occasion, a multitude of citizens had gathered at Kartavya Path this morning to witness this parade. A symbol of national pride commenced with President Draupadi Murmu taking the salute. It was led by Parade Commander and General Officer commanding Delhi area, Lieutenant General Bhavnish Kumar, and the parade showcased a remarkable display of military precision. We do have plenty that happened on the parade route this morning. And ISRO's women scientists behind several successful space missions, including the moon's soft landing and Aditya L1 program, made their debut at the Republic Day parade today as the space agency's tableau called Chandrayaan-3, a saga in the Indian space history, rolled down Kartavya Path. And an all-women contingent of the Armed Forces Medical Services made history by marching on the Kartavya Path for the first time, led by Major Shrishti Kullar and Captain Amba Samant from the Army Dental Corps, as well as Surgeon Lieutenant Kanchana from the Indian Navy and Flight Lieutenant Divya Priya from the Indian Air Force as subordinate officers. President Murmu and the French president arrived at the Kartavya Path in a traditional buggy for the 75th Republic Day celebration. And this marked the return of the buggy. After a gap of 40 years, the presidents were accompanied by the president's bodyguards, also known as Rashtrapati Ke Angarakshak, which is the oldest regiment of the Indian army. And on Republic Day, Delhi did experience dense fog, with the city recording a minimum temperature of 4.7 degrees Celsius. Janata Dal chief Nitish Kumar is all set to dump the ruling Bihar Mahagathbandhan, which also includes Lalu Prasad's RJD and the Congress, and return to the fold of the BJP-led NDA. He will resign and take oath as chief minister again on Monday with the support of the BJP. A flurry of political activities in the state has triggered speculations out there in Bihar. And the list of the Padma awardees was announced ahead of the Republic Day last night, and veteran star Mithun Chakrabarti honored with the prestigious Padma Bhushan, India's third highest civilian award. In a career spanning over 4 decades, he has worked extensively in Bengali and Hindi films. And on receiving the award, the veteran actor shared a video expressing his gratitude. Tennis luminary Rohan Bopanna, poised to claim the top spot in the world doubles rankings, was chosen to receive the esteemed Padma Shri accolade, alongside 6 other athletes, including seasoned squash player Joshna Chinnappa. The Padma Shri is the 4th highest civilian honor in India, following the Bharat Ratna, the Padma Vibhushan and the Padma Bhushan, conferred for outstanding contributions in any field. The other athletes selected for the Padma Shri honor include hockey player Harbinder Singh, Malakmab, the practitioner Uday Deshpande, archer Purima Mahatau, para-badminton coach Gaurav Khanna, and para-swimmer Satyendra Singh Lohaya. They are being recognized for their significant achievements and contributions to Indian sports. Ravindra Jadeja's 2-layered 50 and KL Rahul's mastery were at the heart of India's 421 for 7, a total of which placed them several miles ahead of England after the second day's play at the first test today. Indian tennis superstar Sania Mirza has received strong support from people in Pakistan after her ex-husband Shoaib Malik revealed last week that he was now married to TV actor and model Sana Javed. And Pakistan team director Mohammad Hafiz will not see an extension following the completion of his 3-month tenure, marked by disappointing performances against Australia and New Zealand. Cricketer Shoaib Malik responded to reports regarding the termination of his contract with Bangladesh Premier League franchise Fortune Barishal, saying he had left the country due to a pre-committed media engagement in Dubai. The U.S. State Department asserted that the future leadership of Pakistan rests in the hands of its people, emphasizing a commitment to the democratic process. During a press briefing, Vedant Patel, the department's principal deputy spokesperson, underscored the significance of a free media in advancing democracy. The PTI today alleged that its websites were blocked in Pakistan and demanded an answer from the federal authorities. The Supreme Court today allowed incarcerated PTI President Parvez Elahi to contest the forthcoming general elections from PP 32 of Gujarat. And PMLN Supremo Nawaz Sharif declared his intention to overhaul the country's political system that has led to the unceremonious departure of prime ministers, and questioned the reasons behind his own removal from power ahead of the previous election. Pneumonia continues to take a heavy toll on children in Pakistan, as 12 kids reportedly have died during the last 24 hours across Punjab, taking the total number of deaths to 220 since the first of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the world news for the moment. I do have your financial news, and that is coming up for you shortly. Stay with us. Let's get you your financial news for today. And today is Friday, the 26th of January. Wishing everyone from India a very, very happy Republic Day today. Before I get you the financial news, let me thank all the companies and individuals who make community radio networks possible every day. Huge thanks going out to Discount Power, to Houston EB5, to the Ahluwalia Law Offices, to the Wyndham Hotel in Irving, to Digital X-Force, Kinza Law, Maikalachi, Shri Vimal, Mystic Mandala, Flashbrush Productions, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail about each one of these sponsors in the next segment of our program. But right now, let's get all the financial news to you right now. We have the Indian rupee at 83.13, Pakistani rupee 279.59, Bangladeshi taka at 109.75, Sri Lankan rupee 317.76, the Nepalese rupee at 133.06, the British pound is at 0.79, the euro at 0.92, Canadian dollar 1.39, the Australian dollar 1.52, Mexican peso 17.17, Chinese yuan 7.13, Japanese yen 147.86, the Russian ruble at 90.25, the Thai baht at 35.58, and the Turkish lira at 30.32. Those are your foreign currency exchange rates as they stand right now. The U.S. economy has grown faster than expected in the fourth quarter amid strong consumer spending and defied dire predictions of a recession in 2023 after the Federal Reserve aggressively raised interest rates, with growth for the full year coming in at 2.5%. After being cleared by federal officials, Boeing 737 MAX 9s are returning to the skies today, 3 weeks after the planes were grounded when a panel blew out on an Alaska Airlines flight. The Federal Aviation Administration announced that the jets had been cleared to resume flying after they went through a round of inspections. Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 that saw its door plug, which covers the deactivated emergency exit, come off mid-air, causing an uncontrollable decompression in the cabin nearly 20 minutes after takeoff. And even scarier, the plane had been delivered to the airline just 66 days prior to the mid-flight emergency. No one was injured in the incident, but federal agencies quickly began working to investigate this incident and ensure no other planes would see similar emergencies. Now that the planes have been cleared, it's up to each airline whether or not they will begin using them. It is said that FAA isn't letting the manufacturer off easily after this harrowing incident. A former employee of WWE has sued founder Vince McMahon, alleging he abused and sexually exploited her when he was CEO of the wrestling entertainment company, and that McMahon allegedly trafficked her to other men as a pawn to secure talent deals with prospective wrestlers the company was recruiting. The former employee, Janelle Grant, has filed a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court of the District of Connecticut yesterday, naming him and former head of talent relations, John Laureanatis, as defendants. WWE founder Vince McMahon being sued by a former employee who alleged that the wrestling icon abused and sexually exploited her and says he trafficked her to other men to get them to sign with his company. Bitcoin rose past 41,000 amid a slowdown in outflows from the $20 billion Grayscale Bitcoin Trust that strategists said may help to staunch a 2-week slump in the token. American Express forecast a better-than-expected profit for 2024 and hopes that its affluent customers will be resilient with their spending amid elevated interest rates, sending the company's shares up nearly 3% before the bell this morning. The New York-based company also reported a record revenue for last year, a year which many analysts feared could bring in a recession and crimp consumer spending. Elon Musk's artificial intelligence startup XAI is in talks to raise up to $6 billion at a proposed valuation of $20 billion as the billionaire entrepreneur looks to mount a challenge to OpenAI. The startup has been in talks with family offices in Hong Kong and is targeting sovereign wealth funds in the Middle East for the funding, and the AI race has been heating up with several investors signing big checks for startups looking to capitalize on what has captured Silicon Valley's attention over the past year. Intel Corporation tumbled in pre-market trading after delivering a disappointing forecast yesterday, renewing doubts about a long-promised turnaround at the once dominant chip maker. Intel's first quarter projection for both sales and profit came in well short of Wall Street estimates. Intel reporting disappointing first quarter guidance. And Macy's may need to reconsider its buyout options as its stores continue to fall out of favor with shoppers. During Black Friday week, Macy's foot traffic decreased 5.24% year over year. T-Mobile dialed up a so-so quarter, but it is T-Mobile offering unprecedented value, according to some reporters. Microsoft is cutting around 1,900 jobs at Activision Blizzard and Xbox this week. The Verge is reporting an internal memo from the head of the company's gaming division, and the cuts represent around 8% of the overall Microsoft gaming division. Powering data centers, especially at a time when the energy-hungry AI technology is exploding to reach far corners across industries. This may prove to be an uphill task, but Microsoft has a solution. Instead of using the traditional methods of generating the power required to keep the lights of its data centers on, the company is looking to next-generation nuclear reactors that can power its huge data centers. The Biden administration announced that a record number of Americans had enrolled in the Affordable Care Act to start this year, making it the third straight year of enrollment records set. The administration shared that more than 21 million people had signed up for healthcare plans through Obamacare's health insurance marketplace, and altogether 16 million people renewed their coverage, and an additional 5 million new individuals joined. A new survey has found that 41% of U.S. employees will look for another job this year if their company doesn't provide them with training opportunities. Lawmakers in Washington and Vermont are currently considering an issue that may impact an estimated 16% of Americans' high-potency cannabis. Over the last several decades, the content of cannabis has changed substantially, and the average content seized by the drug enforcement was about 4%. A sport that was once strictly played in retirement communities around the country is now officially a competitive high school sport. Pickleball has been added to student athletic programs at several high schools in Maryland. This has been described as a cross between tennis, badminton, racquetball, table tennis, and dodgeball. Invented in 1965 by a Washington family looking to cure their summer boredom. New York City may soon lose its bragging rights for having the tallest building in the United States to an unexpected destination. A building has been proposed by developers in Oklahoma City that, if completed, would be the tallest in America. It'll stand at 1,907 feet tall in honor of the year Oklahoma officially became a state. And the skyscraper is part of a larger development called the Boardwalk at Bricktown, which will be spread out across 3 acres. The current tallest building in America is the One World Trade in New York City, which is 1,776 feet tall. A French tourist who stopped at the Arkansas State Park during his road trip this month made an amazing find, discovering a massive 7.46 carat diamond. State officials shared that he was from Paris, found the massive rock at the Crater of Diamond State Park, a more than 37.5 acre park known for housing the rocks. He shared with officials he was visiting the U.S. to witness a rocket launch in Florida and visit friends in New Orleans. However, on the way, he heard about the state park and made a pit stop to try and find himself a diamond. A study is currently underway into the access of healthy foods in underserved communities in North Texas. Texas Health is teaming up with Gallup to do a first-of-its-kind study on nutrition security, and it'll take place in Tarrant, Dallas, and Collin counties. SMU is leading a regional effort to attract semiconductor production to North Texas and southern Oklahoma. Texoma Semiconductor Tech Hub includes 41 local governments and organizations that work in education, workforce training, and economic development, and is the only federally recognized tech hub in Texas. The Fort Worth Zoo is excited to announce the first ever rockhopper penguin chick to hatch in Fort Worth Zoo history. The baby rockhopper penguin is named Darcy and was born on the 21st of last month, but in just over a month she's already about 11 inches tall. A 25-year-old woman died from an allergic reaction after eating a cookie sold by the grocery chain Stu Leonard's that was not properly labeled as containing peanuts. They have issued a recall for its Vanilla Florentine cookies, a seasonal product that was sold at its grocery store in Danbury and Newington in Connecticut. And the company updated its notice to recall that vanilla and chocolate Florentine cookies because they contain undeclared peanuts as well as eggs. Freight going through the Suez Canal has dropped by 45% in the 2 months since attacks by Yemen's Houthis have led shipping groups to divert freight, disrupting already strained maritime trading routes. And the Saudi government confirmed reports in state-controlled media that it was imposing new restrictions on alcohol imports within diplomatic consignments. The kingdom's Center for International Communication has said the new regulations were being introduced to counter the illicit trade of alcohol goods and products received by diplomatic missions. European stocks have risen today, lifted by a raft of forecasts beating earnings and expectation that euro area interest rates will start falling from April. The Stoxx 600 index rose 0.9%, with LVMH, the maker of luxury Louis Vuitton handbags, jumping 10% on back of a strong increase in fourth quarter sales. Luxury peers Moncler, Spa and Richemont also rallied as Barclays strategists upgraded their recommendation on European luxury stocks. Apple has maintained tight control over the iPhone's app ecosystem, but about 1.5 decades later, the iPhone maker is forced to bring down the walls of its walled garden as the European Union's Digital Markets Act goes into effect this March. And the British government has called off post-Brexit trade talks with Canada after discussions broke down over disagreements related to the import and export of beef and cheese. The two countries have been negotiating a new trade deal over the past 2 years since Britain fully left the European Union. Trade between the two has largely continued under the same deal that was originally brokered when Britain was a member of the bloc. And the US has pulled further ahead of China in the race for world's biggest economy thanks to the very vibrant American consumer. US GDP rose 6.3% in nominal terms, that is unadjusted for inflation, last year, outpacing China's 4.6% gain. Elon Musk-led Tesla announced price cuts for its electric vehicles in one of its most important markets, and that is China. Despite announcing the price cuts, the company's CEO recently warned that sales growth would be slow this year. Airbus SE is poised to sign an accord to build an assembly line in India for helicopters during a state visit by French President Macron. The deal would see Tata Advanced Systems Limited oversee the production of H-125 civil helicopters. It is the Tata Group and European aerospace major Airbus together making helicopters for civil use in India, marking one of the biggest successes of Prime Minister Modi's ambitious Make in India program. Airbus and Tata Advanced Systems Limited, a subsidiary of the Tata Group, jointly establishing this final assembly line in the country for producing the former's best-selling choppers for meeting the requirements of India and nearby nations. Following the order for an additional 150 Boeing 737 MAX placed last week, Akasa Air this morning announced an agreement to purchase over 300 CFM LEAP 1B engines to power those planes. This is the only engine option for the Airbus A320 family of planes that have two engine options, Pratt & Whitney GTF and CFM's LEAP 1A. Z Entertainment has decided not to go ahead with the $1.4 billion deal with Disney Star for the TV broadcast rights for cricket matches. Z Entertainment Enterprises, which has already missed the first installment of around $200 million, is not moving ahead. In yet another setback for Baiju, its foreign lenders have filed a petition to initiate corporate insolvency resolution proceedings against the firm, and the petition has been filed with the Bengaluru bench of NCLT. The failure on part of Baiju to honor its obligations under the term loan necessitated this move. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present Budget 2024 for the financial year 24-25 on the 1st of February. Adani Group-owned cement major ACC posted a 375% rise in its third quarter profits, backed by strong demand for the construction materials as well as price hikes. HDFC Bank said that the Reserve Bank of India has allowed LIC to increase its stake in the bank up to 9.99%. SBI Cards and Payment Services Limited reported an 8% rise in net profit, and food delivery major Swiggy is letting go of about 350 to 400 employees, or around 7% of its workforce, as tech startups make attempts to check costs and move towards profitability. Air India will build a larger pool of Cat 3 pilots and is assessing how to better cope with flight disruptions caused by dense fog annually, which this winter have been aggravated several-fold by the Delhi airport main Cat 3 runway being shut since last September. Recent data from the National Crime Records Bureau unveiled last month paints a concerning picture regarding cybercrime against children. According to a 22 report, instances of cybercrimes against minors have surged by 32% compared to the previous year. Ranbir Kapoor's Animal created a huge stir when it released in cinemas on the 1st of December, and the film earned huge numbers at the box office, but at the same time was equally criticized and accused. However, it was touted as Ranbir's best performance so far, and it proved to be the highest grossing film of his career. Animal has now begun streaming on OTT from today onwards. Also, taking strict notice of the financial autonomy claimed by corporate and autonomous entities and executive departments of the federal government in Islamabad, resulting in budgetary slippages, the Ministry of Finance there has tightened fiscal controls ahead of a quarterly review with the International Monetary Fund. After inflows from the IMF, the foreign exchange reserves of the State Bank of Pakistan increased enough to cover 1.6 months of imports, helping the exchange rate to remain stable. And caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haq Khakkar urged the Al Jumaiyah Group of Saudi Arabia to invest in the alternative energy sector of Pakistan. In a meeting with a four-member delegation led by the Al Jumaiyah Group head, he said that Pakistan and Saudi Arabia had brotherly ties which were getting further stronger. Pakistan's public sector insurance companies have not only expanded their market share but also pioneered the development of innovative products to cater to the needs of low-income individuals and micro-entrepreneurs. Pakistan Railways Chief Executive Officer Ami Ali Baloch has said the work on the flagship main line will be launched this year as the preparatory works are underway these days. In this news out of Lahore. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the financial news for you today. I am in a very short while, a very brief break here, and I'm going to get you the stories from the annals of history and your social calendar, and all that is coming up. Just stay with me right here on this beautiful Friday morning. It is the 26th of January, and wishing everyone from India a very, very happy 75th Republic Day today. It is today, Friday, the 26th of January. And of course, we're wishing through our program today everyone from India a very, very happy 75th Republic Day. We'll talk about that just in a moment. But there are plenty of other stories also that happened on today's date. We'll go through them as we make this final segment of our program today, right here on Community Radio Networks. It was Spanish explorer Vicente Yanes Pinzon who had commanded the Niña during Christopher Columbus's first expedition to the New World, and he reached the northeastern coast of Brazil during a voyage under his command. His journey produced the first recorded account of a European explorer sighting the Brazilian coast, though whether or not Brazil was previously known to Portuguese navigators is still in dispute. Pinzon subsequently sailed down the Brazilian coast to the equator, where he briefly explored the mouth of the Amazon River, and in the same year Portuguese explorer Pedro Álvares Cabral claimed Brazil for Portugal, arguing that the territory fell into the Portuguese sphere of exploration as defined by the 1494 treaty. However, little was done to support the claim until the 1530s, when the first permanent European settlements in Brazil were established at São Vicente in São Paulo by Portuguese colonists. And that happened way back in the 1500. And on today's date in 1788, Captain Arthur Phillip guides a fleet of 11 British ships carrying convicts to the colony of New South Wales, effectively founding Australia. After overcoming a period of hardship, the fledgling colony began to celebrate the anniversary of this date with great fanfare, and it eventually became commemorated as Australia Day. In recent times, Australia Day has become increasingly controversial, as it marks the start of when the continent's indigenous people were gradually dispossessed of their land as white colonization spread across the continent. Australia, once known as New South Wales, was originally planned as a penal colony, and the British government appointed Arthur Phillip captain of the HMS Sirius and commissioned him to establish an agricultural work camp there for British convicts. In 1818, today's date became an official holiday marking the 30th anniversary of British settlement in Australia. And as Australia became a sovereign nation, it became the national holiday known as Australia Day, and many Aboriginal Australians call it Invasion Day. The first prohibition law in the history of the United States is passed in Tennessee on today's date in the year 1838, making it a misdemeanor to sell alcoholic beverages in taverns and stores. The bill stated that all persons convicted of retailing spirituous liquors would be fined at the discretion of the court, and that the fines would be used in support of public schools. But despite an often vigorous effort by law enforcement agencies, the federal government failed to prevent the large-scale distribution of alcoholic beverages, and organized crime flourished in America during the 20s. In 1933, the 21st Amendment to the Constitution was passed and ratified, repealing prohibition. But it was on today's date in Tennessee, which was the first prohibition law in the history of the United States. On the 26th of January in 1926, John Logie Baird, a Scottish inventor, gives the first public demonstration of a true television system in London, launching a revolution in communication and entertainment. His invention was a pictorial transmission machine he called a televisor, using mechanical rotating discs to scan moving images into electronic impulses. This information was then transmitted by cable to a screen where it showed up as a low-resolution pattern of light and dark. His first television program showed the heads of two ventriloquist dummies when he operated in front of the camera apparatus out of view of the audience. BBC inaugurated regular high-defining public broadcasts in London in 1936, 10 years later. And in delivering the broadcast, his television system was in competition with one promoted by Marconi Electric and Musical Industries. Marconi's television, which produced a 405-line picture, compared with Baird's 240 lines, was clearly better. And in early 1937, the BBC adopted the Marconi system exclusively. Regular television broadcasts began in the US in 1939, and permanent color broadcasts began in 1954. During the Spanish Civil War, Barcelona the Republican capital of Spain falls to the nationalist forces of General Francisco Franco, happened on today's date in 1939. King Alfonso the 13th had approved elections to decide the government of Spain, and voters overwhelmingly chose to abolish the monarchy in favor of a liberal republic. And Alfonso subsequently went into exile, and the Second Republic, initially dominated by middle-class liberals and moderate socialists, was proclaimed. And during the first 5 years, organized labor and leftist radicals forced widespread liberal reforms as independence-minded Spanish regions such as Catalonia and Basque provinces achieved virtual autonomy. The most decorated man of the war, American Lieutenant Audie Murphy, is wounded in France on the 26th of January in 1945. He was born the son of Texas sharecroppers and served 3 years of active duty, beginning as a private, rising to the rank of staff sergeant, and finally winning a battlefield commission to second lieutenant. He was wounded 3 times, fought in 9 major campaigns across Europe, and was credited with killing 241 Germans. He was awarded 37 medals and decorations, including the Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, the Legion of Merit, and the Croix de Guerre. The battle that earned the Medal of Honor for him, which ended his active duty, occurred during the last stages of the Allied victory over the Germans in France. He suffered severe depression from post-traumatic stress syndrome, and also battled fatigue and became addicted to sleeping pills. And this has long been a taboo subject for veterans. He died in a plane crash while on a business trip in 1971 when he was 46 years old. On the 26th of January in 1950, the Indian Constitution takes effect, making the Republic of India the most populous democracy in the world. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi had struggled through decades of passive resistance before Britain finally accepted Indian independence. Self-rule had been promised during World War II, but after the war, triangular negotiations between Gandhi, the British and the Muslim League stalled over whether to partition India along religious lines. Eventually, Lord Mountbatten, the Viceroy of India, forced through a compromise plan. But it was on today's date in the year 1950 that the Indian Constitution took form and was made formal. With the universal adult franchise, it was Nehru who had hoped to overcome India's caste-ridden society and promote greater gender equality. Elections to be held at least every 5 years, and India's government was modelled after the British parliamentary system. A president would hold the largely ceremonial post of head of state, but would be given greater powers in times of emergency. And the first president was Rajendra Prasad. And Jawaharlal Nehru won his first of 3 subsequent elections, was faced with staggering challenges. A massive underdeveloped economy and overpopulation contributed there to widespread poverty also. And his years of struggle there, he always advocated non-violence, but as prime ministers sometimes had to stray from those policies, and they had to send troops into Portuguese enclaves of Goa and Daman, and fought with China over Kashmir and Nepal. He died in 1964 and was succeeded by Lal Bahadur Shastri, and later his only child, Indira Gandhi, served 4 terms as the Prime Minister of India. But today is the 75th Republic Day of India, called India's Ganatantra Divas. And on the 26th of January in 1961, about a week after his inauguration, President John F. Kennedy appoints Janet Travell, who's 59 years old, as his personal physician, making her the first woman in history to hold that post. She possessed an impressive resume that included graduating with honors from Wellesley College, internships in cardiology, a professorship in clinical pharmacology at Cornell University, and an established reputation as a pioneer in the treatment of chronic myofascial pain. The term myofascial pain refers to aching pain or tenderness in the muscles and fibrous tissues that can cause weakness, and prototypes of what would now be called ergonomic chairs. And so this was the first time that a female presidential physician was appointed on today's date in 1961. And even after Kennedy's assassination, she retained her post, becoming President Lyndon B. Johnson's personal physician. U.S. Navy Lieutenant Everett Alvarez Jr. spends his 2,000th day in captivity in Southeast Asia First taken prisoner when his plane was shot down in 1964, he became one of the longest-held POWs in U.S. history. He was downed over Hon Gai during the first bombing raids against North Vietnam in retaliation for the disputed attack on U.S. destroyers in the Gulf of Tonkin. He was released in 1973 after spending over 8 years in captivity, the first 6 months as the only American prisoner in North Vietnam. And from the first day of his captivity, he was shackled, isolated, nearly starved, and brutally tortured. Although he was among the major junior-rank prisoners of war, his courageous conduct under horrendous conditions and treatment helped establish the model emulated by the many other POWs that later joined him. And after retirement from the Navy, he served as Deputy Director of the Peace Corps and Deputy Administrator of the VA, the Veterans Administration, during the Reagan administration before founding his own military consulting firm. But on today's date, the 26th of January in 1970, it was his 2000th day in captivity in Southeast Asia, and we're talking about U.S. Navy Lieutenant Everett Alvarez Jr. On the 26th of January in 1979, it was The Dukes of Hazzard, a television comedy about two cousins in the rural South and their souped-up 1969 Dodge Charger known as the General Lee, that debuted on CBS. The show, which originally aired for 7 seasons, centered around the cousins and their ongoing efforts to elude their nemesis, the crooked county commissioner, Boss Jefferson David Hogg, and the bumbling sheriff, Roscoe Coltrane. The Dukes of Hazzard was known for its car chases and stunts, and the General Lee, which had an orange paint job, a Confederate flag across its roof, and the numbers 01 on its welded-shut doors, became a star of the show. It had a horn that played the first 12 notes of the song Dixie. Due to all the fast driving, jumps and crashes, it was common for several different General Lees to be used during the filming of each episode of The Dukes of Hazzard, which debuted on today's date in 1979 on CBS. The final episode of Dukes of Hazzard originally aired on August the 16th in 1985, and the show spawned several TV specials and a 2005 movie starring Johnny Knoxville, Sean William Scott, and Jessica Simpson. And in 2015, the Dukes of Hazzard reruns pulled off the air because of that Confederate flag displayed on the Dodge Charger. Warner Brothers also announced it would no longer create merchandise featuring that flag. The Dukes of Hazzard, that debuted on today's date in the year 1979 on CBS. And at the request of Jimmy Carter, the U.S. Olympic Committee votes to ask the International Olympic Committee to cancel or move the upcoming Moscow Olympics. The action was in response to the Soviet military invasion of Afghanistan the previous month. Demonstrating once again that the Cold War infiltrated every facet of world life, the action indicated that even the Olympic Games, an arena for sportsmanship and friendly international competition, could be a highly politicized event. And although the committee stopped short of announcing a U.S. boycott of the Olympics in Moscow, the U.S. stance left little room for optimism on that count. President Carter made it clear that if the Soviets did not disengage from Afghanistan by the 20th of February, a cancellation of U.S. participation in the Olympics was all but certain. As one member of the committee stated, the vote reflected what the president requested the committee to do. He indicated that the vote was a message to the Soviets that their aggression in Afghanistan will not go unanswered. And on the other side of the argument, a number of U.S. Olympic athletes were highly critical of both the vote and President Carter's ultimatum, feeling that an international sports competition should not be a tool for political statements. The Soviets, of course, ignored the vote and the ultimatum, and the U.S. Olympic Committee decided to boycott the Games. It was the first time in modern history of the Olympics that the U.S. refused to participate. Almost a decade passed before the Soviets pulled out of Afghanistan. On the 26th of January in 2005, Condoleezza Rice is sworn in as Secretary of State, making her the highest-ranking African-American woman ever to serve in a presidential cabinet. A native of Birmingham, Alabama, she earned an advanced degree in political science and international relations from prestigious schools, followed by a post as Stanford University Provost. She was the first Secretary of State of such a high-ranking African-American woman to serve in the presidential cabinet, and it happened on today's date in the year 2005. And the following year, in 2006, on the 26th of January, during a live broadcast of a daytime TV talk show, Oprah Winfrey confronts author John Free about fabrications in A Million Little Pieces, his memoir about addiction and recovery, which she chose as an Oprah's book club selection. A Million Little Pieces was published 3 years earlier and was his first book. In it, he describes in graphic detail his harrowing experiences with addictions to drugs and alcohol, and his time at a treatment center when he was in his early 20s. After she picked this book for her popular on-air book club, which launched in 1996, the memoir climbed the bestsellers list, following in the footsteps of many of the club's previous selections. He appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show to promote his book, which the talk show host had previously said she couldn't put down, calling it a gut-wrenching memoir that is raw and it's so real. Then, in early January 2006, the Smoking Gun website published an expose claiming court records, police reports, and interviews with a variety of sources showing that he had falsified and exaggerated parts of A Million Little Pieces, especially surrounding his criminal past and time spent in jail, in order to make his story more dramatic. He and his mother appeared on Larry King Live to defend his book A Million Little Pieces, and Oprah Winfrey called into show to express support for the author. However, 2 weeks later, on today's date, when he appeared on her show for a second time, he faced tough questioning from the talk show host, whose attitude towards him had changed. She began the live program by telling him, "It is difficult for me to talk to you because I feel really duped. But more importantly, I feel that you betrayed millions of readers." He admitted to her that he had altered and embellished details of his story, including the fact that he had been in jail for just several years, not 87 days, as stated in his book. She asked him about a particularly memorable incident from the book in which he wrote about having root canals without anesthesia, and he conceded he couldn't recall whether or not the dentist had used any Novocaine. Winfrey also confronted the publisher of A Million Little Pieces, saying her staff had been contacted about possible inaccuracies in the book, only to be told that the publishing company stood by his story as a work of non-fiction. And during the show, the publisher acknowledged that A Million Little Pieces had not been fact-checked. His fabrication sparked a national debate over the definition of memoir. In the aftermath of the controversy, he was dropped by his literary agent, and his publisher settled a class-action lawsuit brought by readers who claimed they had been defrauded. Future editions of the book included a note from him in which he admitted to altering parts of his story. However, the scandal did not signal the end of his career. He went on to publish novels including Bright Shiny Morning and Final Testament of the Holy Bible. And that was Oprah Winfrey's show on today's date, the 26th of January in 2006. And then just a few years ago, precisely 4 years ago, on today's date in 2020, a helicopter carrying former pro basketball player Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and 7 others crashes in Calabasas, California, roughly 30 miles north of Los Angeles. Everyone on board dies. Kobe Bryant's death sent shockwaves through the American sporting world. He played for the Los Angeles Lakers from 96 until 2016, winning 5 NBA championships and the 2008 Most Valuable Player award while making the All-Star team in 18 of his 20 seasons. By his mid-career, he'd established himself as one of the greatest players in NBA history, known for his clutch shooting, capable defending, work ethic, and longevity. He was accused of sexual assault in 2003, a charge which he settled out of court, and the episode cost him some of his most lucrative sponsorship deals, but he retained his status as one of the wealthiest and most beloved American athletes. In addition to his long playing career, he was known for his philanthropy in several business ventures and film projects. He wrote the 2017 short film Dear Basketball, which won an Academy Award. Bryant and his daughter, along with other passengers, were headed to Gianna's basketball game at his Mamba Sports Academy in Thousand Oaks in California. Not long after takeoff, that helicopter crashed in foggy conditions. The accident shocked sports fans across America and around the world. Kobe Bryant had been set to host the Grammy Awards that very evening, and the ceremony became one of the first of his countless tributes to him and his daughter. The Los Angeles airport, the Empire State Building, and the Burj Khalifa were all lit in purple and yellow, the Lakers' colors, in tribute to Bryant. Shaquille O'Neal, Bryant's longtime teammate, sometime rival, and another of the era's greatest players, said he had no words to express the pain that he had felt at Kobe Bryant's death. And fellow NBA legend Michael Jordan called Kobe Bryant one of the greats of the game and a creative force. He died on today's date 4 years ago in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, those were some of the stories from the annals of history that I had for you. And I'm going to now get you your social calendar, which will be coming up in just a bit. It is the 75th Republic Day of India, and we have the best of wishes going out to everyone from India today. Right here in Dallas, the fog is back, especially west and south of our area, and that's where the dense fog advisory remains until noon today. Rain, some of it is also going to be back in the forecast later this afternoon, though the overnight hours are decent cold front blowing through the area after midnight. You might need your umbrella today, but jackets are necessary this morning. A cold front will move through the area after midnight, so tomorrow morning you'll wake up to a cloudy sky, some patchy drizzle, a brisk north-northwest wind, and temperatures in the low to mid-40s. Wind chills will be in the 30s. Clouds will remain across North Texas during the day as the roads slowly dry up. And afternoon highs will hover in the mid to upper 40s all day long tomorrow. I have huge thanks going out to Discount Power, Mr. Malik Jamal, and all the information about Discount Power available at discountpowertx.com. Also, we have thanks going out to Mr. Pradeep Kumar from Houston EB5, and you can check out his latest projects on his website at houstoneb5.com. Attorney Pallavi Aluwalia with the Aluwalia Law Offices can handle all your legal cases, and you can check out more details at aluwalialaw.com. The Wyndham Hotel on Airport Freeway in Irving has the most exquisite banquet halls for your next events. And you all can call 214-675-1754 if you'd like to book your next event there in Irving. Digital X-Force, headed by Mr. Lalit Aluwalia and headquartered in South Lake, brings us your cyber report, and I'll get that to you tomorrow and every Saturday. Attorney Kimberly Kinzer with kinzerlaw.com can handle your immigration cases. And the Maikolachi restaurant in Plano now have their second location, which is the Ruchi Palace, and that one is in Carrollton. And they also have a nice banquet hall out there. And that is Maikolachi. They also have some events that are happening that I'm going to tell you about right now, coming up when I tell you about all the social calendar. Huge thanks going out to Sri Vimal, and they are located on 183 in MacArthur, and they also have a new banquet hall out there for your next event. I have information about Mystic Mandala coming up, and along with their Holy Mela. And also huge thanks going out to Priya with Flash Brush Productions. Bollywood's big movie called Fighter has released, and that happened yesterday, very, very specially for today's Republic Day. For those of you that haven't seen it, by the way, I did see it last night, and I think you're going to thoroughly enjoy it and the class of the making of that film. And we'll talk more about it tomorrow, and that is the movie Fighter, starring Hrithik Roshan, Deepika Padukone, Anil Kapoor, and what a fabulous job each one of them has done. So please do go check it out at your nearest Cinemark or AMC theaters. I'm hoping to see you all at the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial as we hoist the national flag there of India today on the 75th Republic Day of India at 10 o'clock this morning. We will all be at the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial of North Texas in Irving. If you need any more information on that, you can call me 214-675-1754. And tomorrow, the India Association of North Texas will be celebrating the Republic Day, which is today, but they're celebrating it tomorrow, and starting at 11 o'clock at the SLPS Community Center, and that's the one on Britain Road in Irving. It's a free event for all of you, and we encourage all of you to join us there in the celebration of the 47th India Day being brought to you by the India Association of North Texas as we celebrate the 75th Republic Day of India today. गणतंत्र दिवस की आप सबको बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं. Starting today, the Radhakrishna Temple in Allen are having their Sanskriti RKT 2024 for 3 days, today, tomorrow and Sunday. A cultural extravaganza by J.K. Yoge's Bal Mukundan Youth Club. There'll be dance contests, drawing, coloring, chalk art, rangoli, sudoku, chess, carom, Sanskriti quiz, math quiz, IQ quiz, yoga, shloka recitation, instrument contests, prepared and impromptu speeches, presentation contests, fancy dress, poster making, singing, lots happening there these 3 days at the Radhakrishna Temple in Allen. And then tomorrow and Sunday is a 2-day New Year market at the Plano Nature and Retreat Center. It's presented by Human Embrace and Mystic Mandala in association with Crystal Corner Plano. And this 2-day holistic market is happening tomorrow and Sunday. Beauty of Humanity. They are having their annual fundraising event on the 3rd of February at the Doubletree by Hilton on Central Expressway in Richardson with chief guest Azhar Aziz. This annual fundraising event is, please mark that date, it is the 3rd of February, and y'all can call in and ask for more information. The person to call for this event, the Beauty of Humanity, is Shazia Khan, and let me give you Shazia's number if you need any more information on this event. She will be very, very happy to help you with that, and her number is 972-948-1965, 972-948-1965, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is Shazia Khan's number for any information about Beauty of Humanity's annual fundraising event on the 3rd of February. A Hunger Mitao initiative supporting North Texas Food Bank through pre-loved ethnic wear. This is calling all fashionistas to donate newly pre-loved saris, ethnic men and women party wear and accessories, which will be sold or auctioned at a later date to raise funds for NTFB. Now, this collection is taking place right now up to the 10th of February. I'm going to give you a number that you can call. Of course, there are different numbers from various cities, but you can go ahead right now and call. Let's give you Shashi's number. Shashi 469-222-6280. 469-222-6280, and she is in Plano. We have a ghazal night that is being brought to you with Imran Seher, and he is going to sing the ghazals of Jagjit Singh. This event, ladies and gentlemen, is happening on the 10th of February at the Maikolachi, which is the Ruchi Palace Maikolachi, and that will be on the 10th of February at 7 o'clock onwards. For more information, you can call Andy. Let me give you Andy's number. It's 817-883-3333. 817-883-3333. And you've heard Imran Sehed before, sings beautifully. And this this is a Valentine's Day special on the 10th of February. We also have the Grand Center in Plano celebrating love. It's a Valentine's party, and that's happening on Friday the 16th at the Grand Center in Plano. They have exotic drinks, cocktails, appetizers, food, live DJ, live singing, lots of entertainment, and your tickets are available at sulekha.com. You can also contact Gagan Bhalla for more information, 469-878-1112, 469-878-1112. And the DJ is DJ Manish, Music Masti Magic. Nasir Siddiqui of Hiba Entertainment and Vimal Kansara presenting a Bollywood Valentine night on the 17th of February at the Vimal's venue that we were talking about earlier. And this is going to feature Daisy Shah and Ali Quli Mirza. It's happening in Irving on the 17th of February. I'm going to give you a number that you can call, and it is Vimalji's number, 817-881-2121, 817-881-2121. Helping Hearts and Caring Souls are having their annual fundraising dinner and event to support people with disabilities, and that is happening on the 17th of February at the Crystal Banquet Hall on Independence Parkway in Plano. Now, this is an annual event that is brought to you, and we are going to have Saima Jahan there. She is the granddaughter of Madam Noor Jahan, and she's going to be paying tribute to Madam Noor Jahan. That's the entertainment for the evening at this Helping Hearts Caring Souls fundraising on the 17th of February. And for more information, you can call Anjum Anwar. Her number is 469-556-6475, 469-556-6475. U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce has announced their annual Women's Conference, and that's happening on the 1st of March. It's the 8th annual Women's Conference, providing professional and entrepreneurial women with a platform to be inspired, to network, and to grow. That is the 8th annual Women's Conference on the 1st of March. A English family play on the 2nd of March. It's called Maya, and it's written and directed by Sumit Rekhi, and you can see it on the 2nd of March at the NAC Theatre in Frisco. Jubin Nautiyal live in concert at the Curtis Culwell Center, and that's happening at 6:30 in the evening, Sunday the 3rd of March at the Curtis Culwell Center. It is brought to you by 360 Shows, Diamond Productions, Universal Entertainment. For more information, please call Muhammad Abbas. His number is 214-679-6818, and tickets are also available at tinyurl.com/Jubin Dallas. The Festival of Colors, the 14th annual Holi Mela, is being brought to you on the 23rd of March at the South Fork Ranch by Mystic Mandala. And we'd like for you to visit their website, which is dallasfestivalofcolors.com, and be prepared for the 23rd of March. Also on the 23rd of March, the Texas Women's Society is presenting the McKinney Asian Festival at the Glenn Mitchell Memorial Park in Louisiana. Not in Louisiana, it's in McKinney, but it's on Louisiana Street in McKinney. We also have the 20th of April, another date that I would love for all of you to mark, and that is for the Pratham Gala. And we're thrilled to invite you to the 2024 Pratham Dallas-Fort Worth Gala, an extraordinary evening dedicated to empowering children and young people in India to transform their lives and communities. Happening on Saturday, the 20th of April at the Omni Frisco Hotel. And this year's gala theme is Changing Lives, Transforming Communities, and will be highlighted and the remarkable impact of Pratham's work in expanding access to quality learning opportunities in India will be shown. You can please mark your calendars from the 20th of April and join us for an unforgettable evening of exquisite dining, inspiring company, and a cause that really matters. That's all I have in your social calendar for right now. And I'm going to end off my show here for today. And of course, if there's anything else that we need to bring to you, we will do that during the course of the day, right here on Community Radio Networks. Huge thanks going out to all our supporters that make it possible every morning. For those of you who'd like to reach me directly, my number is 214-675-1754, 214-675-1754. And I'd like to, one more time before I sign off, wish everyone from India a very happy 75th Republic Day today.
successful.